All right, we are live on the THCW Facebook page. We've got a handful of viewers who've already joined us, so thank you and welcome. Welcome to our live. Hold on, let me turn this off here. All right, thank you for joining us for Hill Country Happy Hour. THCW has been hosting these happy hours for the last few weeks, and they've been a really great way for our member wineries to connect with all of our friends and viewers and wine lovers who can't come visit right now. Each week we've had a different group of THCW member wineries on a variety of topics, and we've discussed continuing these even after everybody is able to open and you can visit in person again. This week, we have a great group of High Plains growers and our moderator, John Rivenburgh, who will introduce everyone shortly. They'll be talking about the wines that they're drinking, what's happening in the vineyard, and how they work or how they manage the vineyard in the High Plains and their tasting room and winery in the Hill Country. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have in the comments of the Facebook feed, and I will try and relay them to the panel as we go. And like I said earlier, I would like to introduce John Rivenburgh. He is our moderator for the night. He's our THCW Vice President and at Kerrville Hills Winery.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great evening out there. I am back from a whirlwind trip to the High Plains over the last 2 days and then into Austin today. So I'm excited about not being in my truck and here to introduce all these great growers, and some of them are winemakers as well. Tonight on this happy hour, we've got Cliff and Marissa Bingham from Bingham Family Vineyards. Great folks doing some wonderful things up there. We've got Andrew Sides and Andy Timons from Lost Straw and then from La Padera, respectively. And then we've got the folks at Farmhouse. We've got Katy, Jane, and Nick, Seaton, and Traci and Anthony holding court down there. Welcome, guys. Nice to see everybody. I actually just drove past most all of y'all's houses in the last 2 days, running around up there. Yeah, I didn't have much time to stop. I was trying to cover a whole lot of ground. And But I'd like to kick tonight off with, I got a first question. Since the Farmhouse crew looks like they've got a pretty vibrant amount of wine in front of them, what are you guys drinking tonight?
Well, there's 4 of us, so thanks for having us. But I will lead off just because I'm the only person that doesn't take string. So part of Farmhouse is we also make our own wines, but we sell 95% of our fruit like a lot of other people on here. So we chose to do a mix of our wines and our client wines. I personally am drinking a Marred and Sincere Rosé from St. Tryphon, which is located in Hill Country. They're probably our smallest client. People hear us talk about our largest client a lot. We've done things with both Bingham and Lost Straw as well, and so really fun, but we couldn't get any Lost Straw Rosé up in here for some reason because we all drink it, right? Yeah.
I got it here.
I'm drinking our Ramblon, and it has our Bingham fruit, and it's got Bingham fruit in it. Our first red that we made and brought into the tasting room, and that's also my mom's family. And Cliff was our mentor getting started, my uncle, and hats off to him. He's a great man, and they've made some awesome wine. And when we opened our doors, they said, "Where's the red? Where's the red?" And so we said, we got in contact with him and drinking the. It's got some Cab Franc, some Tempranillo, and some Merlot in it. And this is the first vintage, and the next vintage we will be bottling next week that will have some of our fruit in it.
Yes, I have Necker Jelly, and one of my favorites to drink on a hot summer day or after homeschooling your kids. I feel like 7 months straight, even though it's just been 7 weeks. It's a beautiful wine. I love on deck. I was just reading that says sometimes you want to dance in a fountain, sometimes you just want to watch the sunset. And we have the best sunsets here in West Texas.
Most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I'll finish off with what I'm drinking. I am having our Jackknife, which this vintage is our GSM, which is a 50% Grenache, a little 40% Mourvèdre, and a little bit of Syrah in it. This is our 2017. We were back in October. The first vintage of Jackknife actually came from Lost Straw, from Western Era Vineyard, and it was mostly Mourvèdre, Carignan, and Petit Syrah. So it's such a success. The label we sold out of it very, very quickly, and we have tried to duplicate that this vintage. And so it's still a little young, but it's drinking really well. So happy to be here. We're in some really good company. John, good to see you. Thanks for January. Anyway, cheers, guys.
Salud. So, Mr. Andy Timons, what do you have on the couch there? Perfect. You're on mute, Andy.
Okay, in this hand I have Jefferson Reserve whiskey, and in this hand I have our 2017 Tempranillo from Lost Straw. So we started making this is our oldest block of Tempranillo. It's 15 years old, and Andrew and the guys have done a really good job with it. The rest of that block, Tim Drake gets 1 acre of it, and Ron Yates also does wine off this for the last 3 years too, off this block too. But yeah, I'm drinking the old Tempranillo tonight.
Nice. How about you, Mr. Bingham? Marissa, what are you guys enjoying this evening?
I've got a glass of our Reserve Petit Verdot, and Cliff has a glass of the Carignan. So Petit Verdot we've been growing for a while, but Carignan's a relatively new red for us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Mr. Sides, last but not least, what are you enjoying this evening?
So I actually was drinking some Tatum Rosé, so shout out to my buddy Josh. And then Katy, since I saw Katy Jane and the guys from Farmhouse, thought it would be appropriate to bring a bottle of our Queen Laws Rosé, which is always our kind of flagship rosé now for us, and one that's real successful, real popular. So got that on cue for next thing I'm about to get into.
Nice. Well, since I don't want to be biased, and I love all you guys and respect every one of you guys, I opened up a Cibolo Creek Brewery, really nice craft beer from Bernie, Texas today. So I didn't have to choose favorites or drink more than one bottle of wine tonight on television, if you will. Jumping in, I wanted to kind of ask you guys and I'll throw some questions out to you guys one by one. I spent the last 2 days up there in the High Plains looking around at vineyards and covered a lot of ground. And I was pleasantly surprised with most everything I saw, given where we were, 3 months ago, 4 months ago even. And I want to throw this question out to Cliff maybe first. What's your general temperature on what you're seeing right now versus where you thought you were going to be in January?
Some varieties are looking better. Petit Verdot, Syrah, Roussanne. Beyond that, it's still pretty thin. We're actually some of the later bud breaking, we're hoping they still come out, but we're probably going to see some trunk damage. So you might not have seen much of my vineyards if you're a whole lot more positive.
Was there, was there, I'll get there, Andy. Was there one varietal in your vineyard in particular that fared well in comparison to others?
Yes, those I mentioned, the Petit Verdot, Terraldigo, it's 100%.
Yeah, that's a beautiful varietal.
Yeah, the Petit Verdot is the same way. Trying to think. You know, the others are they're real hit and miss. Some of them they're pretty bleak right now. We're just hoping we don't have a lot of trunk damage in some spots.
Yeah. Mr. Andy Timons, what are your thoughts on that? I know you and I had a long conversation the other day, and we won't get into that conversation, but on this topic, what would you say are your highlights and your lowlights right now?
I was going to say that, you said you looked at a lot of vineyards, but we stayed in my office for 2 hours. We never went out in my vineyard. Yeah.
Well, sometimes you just have to talk to the farmer to get the information you need.
Yeah.
You don't have to go walk around.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to go back out.
Me neither.
It's pretty much, there's kind of 3 baskets of varieties. I would say there's the basket of varieties that are not doing well anywhere. And seems to me like it's very late stuff that was harvested. There's a basket of varieties that were early or harvested further away from Halloween that, seem like they're doing, better. And then there's this kind of little black box in the middle that like I call it like Sangiovese. I'll use that for example. I've seen it on our place be an absolute train wreck, and then I've seen it on other places be 2 to 4 tons an acre. There's definitely some varieties that are winners and some that are losers, and then there's some that, depending on where you go. I looked at a lot of stuff too, trying to figure out a pattern to any of it. I really can't figure out much of a pattern to it. It looks to me maybe the more water that you had and the heavier that you watered your stuff, the better you are this year. But we always try to do deficit irrigation towards the end of harvest, and I think that kind of hurt the vineyards that typically do that. I think it hurt them a little bit more, but it's definitely a mixed bag. No matter where you go, definitely mixed bag.
Would you consider that deficit irrigation maybe just too much of a stressor going into a year like we had? Is that what you would think?
Yeah, I think like that 104. That was the all-time record high ever for not just that day in August, for the month of August. Think about that, 114, 115, whatever it was for 2 or 3 days. So, if we water every year planning on it being I would never water every August planning on it be at 114 the day before Labor Day. I just never would do that, right? So it's just something, you and I talked about this, like you can't give up on a variety like Mourvedre that's having a tough time this year, because there have been 3 years out of the past 15 that it's been the only red grape that I harvested. So I would much rather, bet on there being a late spring freeze than having what we had happen to us this time. I think in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s was the last time something like this happened. But we're going to learn from this. We really want to be more consistent producers, and it breaks all of our heart to not be able to deliver all the fruit that we normally do. But God takes care of a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of wineries aren't selling a lot right now, and they don't need the fruit anyway. So the market has a way of working stuff out. So I think there's still going to be plenty of fruit for everybody. People have been taking a lot more than what they usually do the last couple of years anyway. So, I think it's going to work out okay.
Yeah. Hey, Nicholas, Anthony, or ladies, any of you guys, if you guys have any highlights or lowlights in your vineyard that you think are interesting attributes?
We've got one block that it's got probably our best. The Muscats look really good, and then the VPA's in the middle, and it's it's coming out. It's consistently coming out, and it looks good, but there's just no fruit there. And looks good to me is a live vine. That's the number one, trunk damage, no trunk damage and stuff like that. That's the, we're not basing it on fruit this year. It's just, basically gone into survival mode. And that, and then you got, Moved at our block in town, it broke out much earlier than blocks at our site 12 miles away from it. And you don't think that 12 miles is a big difference, but it's crazy how, year in and year out, that site in Brownfield breaks out quicker. And you're seeing it this year a good bit. However, our younger vines, it seems like are breaking out, a little quicker than our older vines. And I guess that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Another big winner for us is Petit Verdot. It looks really good. And Cinsault which is strange. We have a block that looks really, really good. It's, business as usual. And then we also have another block of Cinsault that looks a little bit more it's all over the board. It's got funny bud break. We've got definitely have some damage in it, but I am encouraged to see a lot more stuff coming out. It's definitely going to be wonky, and I think I'm interested to see how bloom. What if we're going to see any issues when we start blooming from the freezes. So I think that's something that's just kind of been bugging me in the back of my mind is, some of the stuff may look like it's holding some fruit, but then we roll into bloom and, we may have some shatter or just who knows, whatever that can hold. But overall, like Andy said, we've got a mixed basket of and really bad.
I got a question for the group. I mean, we've, carried a little different structure of farming down here in the hill country with timing and such. What I noticed from talking to folks in different vineyards and then the 5 vineyards, which I know is a tiny sample set for the High Plains being in 5 vineyards, but something I noticed is that every one of those 5 vineyards I've visited, a few weeks ago, everybody said there was no bud break in any Tanat or any more bed. But yesterday, the day before when I was up there, I noticed that they had started to do some bud breaking. Do you guys, and I'll throw it out to whomever wants to answer, do you guys think that there may just be some serious delay action going on right now?
I think so. I hope so.
I hope so too. I'm being hopeful as well. Yeah.
Yeah. The latest freeze on record for this area is May 3rd and 4th, depending on if you want to count it before midnight or after. And so we were really passionate about communicating with our clients that we weren't going to make a call on a percentage of fruit load until after like June 1 is the date that we've given. And that can provide a lot of frustration for a winery because there's a lot of logistics involved, as you well know, and they want a crop estimate before that. But there's nothing like telling everybody you're at 100% or an 80% loss and then coming back and having them make connections elsewhere, right? Out of need, not loyalty. And then you being like, oh, hey, by the way, it showed up. So frustrating as that is and was and currently we are, we just like to look back at our data.
Yeah. I would offer the opportunity to any winemaker that wants to come and walk your 1,000-foot rows and count clusters for you guys to go on up there and help you guys out.
We offer that all the time. We get a lot of commentary online, and all we do is ever invite people up to put their thumbprints right alongside ours. So
I hear you. So we got another question online. How do the vines look, or how are the vines doing with the April weather that we've had so far? Again, I'll throw it out to the group. Anybody?
I mean, I went through 17 different vineyards on Sunday and Monday, and there was a little bit of freeze damage. I guess if you're talking about April weather, that's what you're referring to. But it was pretty minimal. We probably saw freeze damage in, I don't know, Andy was with me. What do you say?
It was like not even 1%.
Yeah.
But you could find one every 20 or 30 foot.
But
that's good.
I don't think the any of the freeze damage is going to be a factor in what we're talking about as far as fruit loss this year. I think the damage was definitely done with that heat spike, and then the real pretty nasty cold spell that we got in October. And we had quite a bit of just in some of the vineyards we saw, it looked like some of the older vineyards actually were impacted more. And that was something that I found pretty interesting. And I don't know really what the reason for that would have been, but some of the older stuff that we had at some of the original lost draw, like the doorbell that was some of the older vines, there had quite a bit of like splitting in all the way through the trunk. And I don't know if that's just a factor of the plant trying to really ripen super late in the season and then hitting that cold spell. So you had a lot of obviously moisture in the vines, and then getting froze. Like I think it was 15 degrees on August or October 31st, something like that. 15 degrees, is that right?
Halloween.
I think that's having a big factor in what we're seeing right now.
Well,
Oh,
and
for sure.
John, you talking about those late varieties? Andrew and Chris were Monday. We were walking through La Pradera looking at blocks of Morvet, and I'd already told him, I'm like, there's nothing now. I'm gonna cut these arms off and retrain them. And I sent him a picture yesterday. Like, I was shocked at what's happened in the last 3 days in the Morvet stuff. Really started to move. Now it's not completely fruitful, but there's 2 of the 4 blocks we're probably now going to try to salvage into maybe a 1.5 to 2 tons an acre that Monday we were ready to give up on. So our cutoff date's always been like May 3rd or whatever. The Monday after the first day, we were going to wait till the end. I'm glad we waited because we would have jumped the gun on some of this.
Yeah.
But it's
I
very
think that's-
similar for us also. And Andrew, you pointed out that you've noticed in the vines. I mean, that's what Cliff and I have been talking about. What we call the old place, the oldest block. You're definitely seeing more trunk arm damage than our vines that are like 2 to 3 years old.
Yep, absolutely.
But I will say, Andrew, remember we walked through a vineyard that was like second leaf, and 50% of those plants were dead. Remember?
Yeah, that was Altamona, more better.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so that's why I like as a farmer, you try to figure out.
There was definitely a sweet spot. There was like that, like 4th, 5th leaf stuff was like kind of the best looking stuff, and then anything younger than that or anything older than like super old was. So it's I don't know, it's kind of interesting. A lot of the Leahy stuff that we were really surprised by, which kind of fits right into that. Some of the varieties that were right in that same age, it was kind of that. If it was older than 5 years, but not older than 10 years, that kind of, it was like a little sweet spot there that seemed like it kind of made it through it a little bit better.
Yeah, Cliff was just correcting me. I don't know why I got it off, but our second leaf cab got hit really hard, and we're doing a lot of replants. And then it's the 15-year-old vines.
Yeah.
And so it's a sweet spot you're talking about.
But our 4th and 5th leaf looks real good.
Yep.
The High Plains Wine Growers did a live stream in conjunction with AgriLife earlier this week, and that was a lot of the questions that Bree Nelson and I were pressed for, and which is fine, and we understand. But as we kept going through it, I think that the only correlation that you will find outside of that window in the sweet spot is on those mature vines. You know, mature vines have been with a winery client longer, right? They have a portfolio, they have a vineyard designation. And so it was the wines that are consistently on the shelf or in the tasting room that you try and do maturity and late ripening with to hit that chemistry to keep your profile tasting regularly. And that some of those were just harvested the day before and 2 days before that Halloween freeze. So for us, for a small portion, we felt like there was a real correlation there between the older vintage or older vines and existing vintages.
I would agree. I mean, looking at some patterns, I mean, I started coming up. I mean, Neil asked me to come up in December and start going through, like we went through Neil's place in December, and the Nara's place in December before Christmas. And I think you guys are spot on your timing, but it's been, I think you can go and look, and the things that were harvested, just like you said, Katie Jane, around that time, they're the ones that are having struggles, whether they were delayed, season, or they were frozen because they weren't lignified, whatever the reason being. I think you guys are spot on. I mean, but then again, the only rhyme or reason I found in the last few days is like the ones that were harvested in or around that time frame of Halloween, late October, early November, are the ones that are having an issue. So, I mean, science aside, I think you guys are on something.
We compare vines. For us, vines are seasonal. They give birth every year. And the easiest analogy that I have is it is the difference between an athlete who runs marathons, spraining their ankle, and a 400-pound, maybe slightly obese person who sprains their ankle and every time, right? Like, it's all metabolic. It's all about the condition that you're in, the shape you're in when you sustain or receive an injury. So
that's a perfect analogy. I mean, that's like a perfect analogy.
It really is. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just going to say, kind of answering like what Andy was saying, like there are definitely some varieties that seem like they made it through a little bit better, but it's not always an absolute. And so we have like, basic, for example, in like Terry County, a little bit earlier than this, like the stuff that we had that was getting harvested in Gaines County. And it seems like the stuff that was in Terry County at Altaloma Vineyard, the vines there look great, like the Sangiovese, but the stuff that was quite a bit later, and it's the same variety, it just got harvested at a different time because it took longer to ripen. That stuff doesn't look as good. And so I just kind of, I don't think it's going to be a variety specific thing. And it's just kind of like emphasizing the point that it was like all due to timing. So I think this was later harvested, later maturity. It's having a lot more time, a lot harder time with this thing.
I got a question for you guys. How have you guys thought about mitigating the cycle that this might put your vineyards in? I mean, looking at this, if we had delayed last year because of the weather. We're going to have delayed this year because of the way bud break's going to happen. Have you guys thought about any strategies going into post-harvest, how you would mitigate any like late lignification?
Well, John, keep in mind, we have such a crazy growing season. We don't know yet whether or not harvest is going to be early or late. I mean, we've got some later bud break, maybe, but it's not necessarily real late. But are we going to have a hot summer? Are we going to have a dry summer, a wet summer? Since we're going to have these really low crops, like really low tonnage, are we going to ripen faster? So, I mean, I think we're all thinking about that. But the crazy thing is we don't know when harvest is.
Also, so far what I'm seeing is what the bud break that was normal looks very fruitful. As time goes by, I don't anticipate the buds being fruitful. There'll be some exceptions, but for the most part, the late shoots coming out will not be fruitful. So I'm not anticipating late crop.
But I think we would all say, I mean, we're all talking, and Farmhouse and Andy, we all talk, and we're all talking about what are we going to do to strengthen the health of the vines. Because we're farmers. We're already talking about 2021.
Yeah.
And we are acting like it's tomorrow. We're like, okay, we can't wait till 2021 and what we're going to be doing and all this stuff because that's already where we are.
Yeah. Hey, you got to excuse me for asking loaded questions that I get. I want people out there to understand where you guys' mindset are on these things. Changing gears just a little bit. There was a question a while back. Most everybody on here has wineries also. When do you guys anticipate opening your wineries?
Andrew's right down the middle of it. Let him. We had a long discussion about this today. Andrew,
I think he's probably the best. Yeah.
Man, put me on the spot. Yeah, so we made the decision. We're not going to open up now, or probably for the, at least I'll say foreseeable future, meaning next 2 to 3 weeks at least. I think that there's if you're down here in the hill country, you know that we've just now started getting some cases that are popping up. We've been fortunate to not have anything too bad until the last, I don't know, 2 weeks. And then my wife actually works in healthcare, so I'm pretty close to, from that side of it, I get the information from her, but we're just now starting to see kind of the peak for our area. And I don't know, we just made the decision. I think like for us, like it makes more sense to stay closed. Like I know that like the biggest scare for us is our county and the counties around us have been relatively, I won't say unscathed, but we haven't had as many cases as like per capita as a lot of places around us. And our biggest fear is that if we're opening up the floodgates, so to say, like we're really worried about people coming from the bigger cities where there has been more cases. And we are obviously a destination spot for people that are trying to get out of the city. And so if they start heading our way, then it might create like an issue for our town and not just for like our people, but our community in general, like the wineries in general. And I'll say this I'm pretty confident that most wineries, most success happens between September to December. Those are generally some of the bigger months for wineries. And so I'm more comfortable like losing revenue, whatever it is, through the next few months if we can just like be responsible and keep the cases down in our area for a couple months. I think the worst thing for our industry would be to like be open for a month in like May and June, when generally those aren't the best months for any winery, especially here in the hill country, at least for us. I don't know. I think that's probably pretty common. And then have to shut back down and not be allowed to be open during the more fruitful months for all of us on the selling side. And I think that would be the biggest detriment to the industry. And I think it would prolong this whole thing a lot longer. And so we've made the decision to stay closed. We're obviously open for curbside pickup, online sales, just like everybody else is. But I think the biggest thing is we're just trying to like keep things kind of quarantined for the moment, trying to keep it out of the county, keep it out of the area. So
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So really, it was a conversation with our employees that you shared with me about their not fear, but maybe more apprehension about us going ahead and opening up. Does that play a part in your decision to go ahead and shut down for 2 or 3 more weeks?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that had a big factor in it as well. I mean, our employees are like family to us. And like, so if I never want to create a situation, even in our like workplace, where people are, worried or feel like, fearful of something. And no one can really enjoy themselves. And we really try to create an atmosphere where everyone's, having a good time, and also just it's kind of at their best and experiencing like their best surroundings and everything. So if people are fearful of even being at work because of who they may come in contact with, it's not generally going to be the best work environment. So it's kind of all played into it, I guess.
Well, that's good. Well, I think I want to change the tone. Just to be honest with you guys, I'm sick and tired of talking about COVID-19 and my bank account and what I'm going to do about loans and where my business is. And I'm gonna ask you guys some questions because they let me moderate this tonight. And some of the questions that I've received online, honestly, I don't like them, so I'm not going to ask you guys because I don't find them appropriate. So the first question I've got for Farmhouse, what's your favorite variety to grow? Let's just I want to know your absolute what's your absolute number one in your vineyard?
4 of us, you know.
I know. Well, then I'll get 4 answers. That's fine.
Hey,
We
wait.
got time.
I'm gonna kind of like help you out here, John. I think something that would be pretty fun. So it sounds like the Petit Verdot is doing really well for you guys this year. I don't know if there's
That's probably the
a virtual grape deal go down. Like I would love to buy some Petit Verdot from. if you have some available, we could purchase.
Okay. Okay. Well, when you work that out, as soon as y'all are done,
I like that.
Yeah, public shame. I'm a big believer in public shame and your side. I think you know. I have no problem with that. I have no problem being in our school system with our children. I love public shame, but it is in fact contracted.
But what about for every ton of Coonwall we buy, you have to sell us a ton of Petit Verdot?
Sandy Timons.
Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting somewhere.
Okay, when you guys,
I'm going to jump in because there is a very important Facebook question asking what John is drinking.
Oh,
there's a very serious question about what I'm drinking.
Yeah.
Really said.
Not liking all the other questions. I think this is pretty important.
From the beer.
This is a Cibolo Creek brewery out of Bernie, Texas. Small operation, 2 brothers, really cool guys. They do a hell of a job, and they make these giant beers to go.
Did they
right now, thanks to our governor, you can get these beers to go out of their location in Bernie, Texas.
And tip of the hat to them for that super cool labeling, right? That blanket sticker where they can label by the lot, by the handcrafted.
Yeah, and it's like it feels. I mean, it's literally like they're just labeling these as you pick them up. It's pretty nice.
Well, cheers to them because their packaging is great.
Thanks to our governor, I'm going to start putting wine in a can like that and put a paper label on it. So all joking aside, since Lost Draw and Farmhouse is doing some horse trading, I'd really like to know about this Giraldigo that the Binghams have.
All contracted. You cannot have any.
All right, I'll call you guys later. We'll talk about that.
Is it Teron Yates? Just confirm yes or no. Just confirm yes or no. Like you don't have to answer. It's a yes or no.
Most of it's to Bingham family Cellars.
I want to play with it. I want to play with it. So you can't have it, John.
It's been one of my. We've been making. Nara's been growing it for a few years now, and we've got a lot in the cellar, and it is. I tell you what, I'm very impressed with that varietal. It is.
You got to give a shout out to my brother Dusty because he's the one that had them planted.
Oh well, yeah. Thank you, Dusty.
Yeah. You're watching, Dusty. You just got a shameless shout out.
Yeah. I've got 1 tote of the Giraldigo that I'm going to work with, and I'm loving it. And I actually have a waiting list, and Mike Baytek at my meadow is the first on the waiting list for any Giraldigo that I have.
Oh, Mike Baytek. All right.
Solid Mike Baytek reference.
I got to give Baytek a call because he buys some from us, so we'll give him a ring. Find out. Right? Let's see. What is the varietal? Oh, what? Sorry, guys. I'm losing track.
Reading is hard.
What is the varietal? What varietal is the weeds?
Like a weed. Like
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't quite understand the question. What varietal, Andy, I'll ask you this one. You grow a lot of different varieties. I know Mr. Bingham, Marissa, you guys do as well. What varietal is like a weed that always comes back no matter what?
Orange muscat.
It's actually the herpes.
No matter how hard I dream about it.
And what looks the best? It looks like it's just gonna lay it out there.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as mixing, they're the smoking hot farmer's favorite varietal and the variety in the history of all wine, orange muscat, which I find to be more embarrassing and not although it's
blank orange muscat.
Yeah.
Up until this year, John, it was Trebbiano.
Up until this year, yeah.
But I mean, so now I'm not going to base my future on a 1 in 30 year event.
Right.
I'm still really big on Trebbiano, but I've got one block. Going back to the point though, what normally buds out late is just going to be that much later, and I'm just hoping and praying that I don't redo that whole block, because that Trebbiano block is one of my favorite.
Yeah, and it's famous.
Yeah,
it is famous. It's a fantastic wine.
Yeah,
Cliff, telling Andy, and I shouldn't be saying this on television, but that block has yielded 14 and 17 tons to the acre, and one double goals at those.
Oh man,
I mean, it's my favorite grape to grow.
I bet.
But maybe I tell Andy that I need to throttle it back sometimes, maybe for the health of the vine, not because of the quality of the wine.
Yeah. Cliff, I got to tell you, I visited y'all's tasting room just after Thanksgiving this year, and I was thoroughly impressed and joyed with the wines and the experience I had at your tasting room on 290. We bought a mixed case, and your Trebbiano was a star. Your Cloudburst was beautiful. I've been really impressed. You guys made really, really nice wines.
Thank you.
My staff, that was kind of our holiday wines to all the staff. So we all drank your wines through the holidays this year, and we were real impressed. I really liked them.
Daniel's done a really good job, and I've had a lot of fun getting to work with him and do a lot of fun things with him. And now we have another brother, Blake, that I might turn into a winemaker, and then another sister who started working. So before you know it, half of the kids will be making wine.
Well, there's a lot of you guys, so you guys would be all right. Y'all are talented folks.
And then I'll teach McLean, Katie Jane. Don't worry.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, he's drinking right now, so I mean, we try. But Daniel is the best brother you'll never see. Daniel Bingham is the best winemaker you'll never see.
Yeah.
He's gonna be on.
He and Dave Riley.
Yeah, he and Dave Riley. I think he must have totally gleaned that from Dave Riley, that absence makes the heart grow fonder.
I think there's a little bro crush going on there. So, but Daniel is going to be on one of these Hill Country Facebook Lives. We're going to drag him out.
Good. I got a question for you guys. Have you guys looked at, and this is a canned question, I'm going to go into this with you guys knowing that this is, I already know kind of the answer some of you guys are going to give me. Is there any kind of alternative pruning or growing styles that you guys would look at to help mitigate some of the risks of hail or frost, or now what we would call late season non-lignification damage in your vineyards? Alternative pruning styles. Andy, I'll throw it to you first.
Okay. Yeah, we talk. So we're since we have the opportunity, we're going to go ahead and try to convert some stuff over to cane pruning this year. Our second biggest expense is going through and shoot thinning and fruit dropping and stuff. And I really feel like that the cane pruning is something that can not only limit yield, but it will promote maturity. All the things you just said. So since we're already going to have to take some varieties and cut them off at the head and start over, we're really looking at that. Now, it does limit how much you can do mechanically, but it's super expensive for us. I just spent about $650 an acre shoot thinning some cab last week. So, that's super expensive, but it's at the high profit block for us. And we have, they're pretty demanding customers, like all our guys, that kind of want it to look a certain way and let it be a certain yield. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at to try some of that and see how that comes to fruition in the next couple of years.
Is anybody else looking at any kind of alternative pruning or growing styles or trellising styles?
We've experimented with some stuff in the past on controlling vigor. laying down extra arms that we could potentially go in and cut out, or just really trying. Like Grenache is one that really wants to run wild. Our Malvasia Bianca is another one that if we don't watch it, it'll turn into a jungle. And so we're trying to figure out ways to control vigor. And so that's just kind of been experimenting with laying down, kicker canes or bonus canes that we would essentially be, we found that in our Malvasia that the kicker canes, we've got into, with that variety, we've got into an on and off situation where it makes a big crop, little crop, big crop, little crop. And so prior to the October 31 freeze, which Malvasia did, it's handled quite a bit of damage.
We call it toast. Just say it.
Yeah, it's been toasted. I mean, we're still, I don't know where we are yet, to be honest, but it's looking pretty bleak. But prior to this year, we were experimenting with hybrid canes, kicker canes, bullhorns, all kinds of different things, just to keep the vegetativeness in check. So I don't know that I can really talk to how to prevent what we just experienced. I think that's going to be maybe something we'll learn going forward, but that's some of the stuff we've experimented with in the past. And I think Andy brings up some points on, those expenses of the canopy management, the dropping fruit, that high quality stuff. You do have to pay for it. And so ways to help mitigate that would be awesome. But I think it's just an ongoing learning process.
Yeah. Have you guys, I've always been curious, and I've never really asked this question, and I don't know if anybody's doing it. You guys may know if somebody's doing it. Has anybody, I theorized years ago with VJ Reddy about doing some like double Goya or some like, quad cordon, trellising. Have you guys ever thought or know of anybody who's ever thought of doing anything like that?
To my knowledge, no one is doing it here yet. I think that sounds like a wonderful idea. None of those regions that we can pull examples from suffer the wind that we do, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the last thing that holds anybody down from trying any of that methodology. Is you can do that. You can add additional wires, you can raise additional wires, but what is it going to do in a haboob, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I never. Yeah.
And the mechanical harvest too. I think it take a trunk shaking machine to do it.
Right.
Like harvesting pecans. All right. Let's see. This is why this is fun, right?
To the geeks.
Yeah, for the geeks.
Right? It's super fun for if you're geeky.
I got a question from a winemaker that will remain nameless in this question. You guys may know who it is. Has anybody thought about not irrigating to reduce vigor?
I tried that last year. It didn't work out so good.
It wasn't me. I wasn't the one, by the way.
Irrigating costs money, so anytime that we feel like we can limit irrigation, we're going to do that. But for the longevity and the health of the vineyard, everything's got to have food and water to stay alive, and so that's a real delicate balance. And we spend a lot of money on moisture probes and weather stations, and to make sure that we are being very, very precise with our measurements and our data to help make those decisions. We after abrasion we do pressure bombs, and we also read the evapotranspiration of the canopy once a week to help make those irrigation calls. And so, we do want to do some deficit irrigation to stress the vines, but you're walking a fine line. When 114 degrees shows up for 2 days, You know, so it's that. I don't know that there's question changes every 5 minutes. I would guess.
Yeah. John, I mean, keep in mind, in the high plains, water is our most prized possession.
Yeah.
We have to take care of that commodity. None of us growers are watering just for the heck of water. Like, we think through that before we water. But you don't, like, if you don't water, we're not going to let the plant stress so bad that it starts dropping leaves and dropping fruit because it's done. So sometimes you're going to give it water.
Okay. I got a question. Is anybody using any kind of like pressure bomb? Is anybody using a pressure bomb to do their?
We once forageing starts, once a week we do pressure bombs, and we read evapotranspiration transportation in the canopy along with.
That's cool. Okay. Awesome.
Units with our weather station to make those decisions.
Okay. Does that mean I need to get off? Oh, okay. I just got a note that it's 6:53.
That's a shame. I feel like we could go on for such a long. I mean, do you see how many wines we brought to this party?
This is a great conversation, and until January kicks us off, I think we should continue to communicate.
Hey, I vote that we give you. Johnny, we give you a TV show like this.
Hey, I would gladly do it, Anthony. You obviously know me well enough to know.
Yeah, man, this is awesome. You'd be. We should fire. What are the guys on?
Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel. Like,
don't fire him.
I don't look good for Steve, man. My neck's too fat. I don't look good.
I would like to share the text that I received of Andy in a picture, supposedly from our graphic designer and web person. And like the meme they showed how Andy's presiding over this live stream later in the comments because it's damn. I already tweeted it to Andy. It's solid. It's solid.
You know, the back conversations in these live streams are always the most entertaining, and I would love to figure out a way to
make money.
Yeah, we would be famous if we could figure out how to do that.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So you've got to ask us questions. So you and I talked about the changing dynamic of all the vineyards going into the hill country.
Right.
How do you see in the next 4 or 5 years where, you have people that have wineries down there that don't want to travel to the high plains to look after their grapes?
That's always been that way. Yeah.
So where do you think, like we are in the high plains, what's our game plan going forward in the next 5 years when we do have wineries that are going to go with these vineyards that are being planted in the hill country? I mean, obviously we can do it cheaper, but like, where do you see that going? You think there's going to be people that will stick with the high plains and then people that have been with this that are going to go down to the hill country, or there's a lot of stuff going in the hill country?
We didn't nail him, Andy Timons. That's awesome. Right here on live.
You're on fire. Hey, and since we're going to have this conversation, I'm glad that my lovely friend switched me from beer to vodka soda so we can have this talk, Andy.
You should unbutton your top button there, John.
Should I? Let me give you one of those. Okay. So, Andy, you know what I think.
Did it?
World, what I'm going to say. I mean, in all honesty, look, I think that there, and I've been saying this for probably 7 or 8 years. There's going to be a stratification between the high plains and the hill country, just like there was on the West Coast, just like there was in Washington, California. You're going to have a stratification between regions as industries grow. My firm belief is that the high plains has got a place at the table for travel destination. I was having the conversation.
Thank you so much. Yes.
I don't think it's going to take 20 years. I would say in the next 10 years. I mean, you guys literally, like, I had a conversation today with the Naras. I spent the day with the Naras. We were proofing labels, and we actually had this conversation. And quite honestly, I think that if you look at when I started growing grapes and coming to the high plains, I bought my first grapes in 2008 from BJ Reddy. Brownfield's a completely different place, right? And that's a small time frame to have a town like that in West Texas completely changed the face of how it operates, right?
I'll never forget when the Triple D got internet, because I had gone online and done a tourism piece that you had on my personal Facebook page, and you made a snarky comment like, "Oh, Katy Jane, you're so far, you're just so close to like coffee houses and tasting rooms with internet capability. You're right there, right?" So literally, when the Triple D got internet, the Wilmer family, I remember screenshotting that to you and sending it and saying, like, we're on board, right? We've got an internet cafe, and now we have this amazing shop on the square. Everyone drives from Austin to Ruidoso. That's how I have to say it if you're a Texan. Ruidoso. And those text out numbers are available to all of us, right? And the Harvest Host, I would like to talk about the fact that there is an entire segment of people now that literally go online and pick someplace where they can work on a farm or a ranch in trade or lieu of their rent.
Yeah.
It's figure 100% it's come faster than we thought.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that the High Plains, Brownfield, and Lubbock are gonna have a destination status, right? I do think though that there's going to be a stratification of purchasing. I mean, you're going to see folks who want to have a sense of place and who are going to be hills country centric, and those people are going to move away from buying vines in the high plain or fruit in the High Plains. I also think though that you've got a vibrant group of folks. I mean, you've got Lost Draw, you've got the Binghams, you've got Farmhouse, you've got Nara's now, you've got Ready now. You've got all these people that are creating brands, and the natural progression of creating brands is creating tasting rooms in your origin, right? And so you're by nature going to create a destination, and I think that's great for our Texas brand. I think those of us that have relationships with people up there, like, I will always get fruit from my friends because I love what you guys grow and I respect what you guys do, and it's a necessary part of what we do. I don't think that'll ever go away. I think that moving forward, new operations having the ability to either plant grapes, innovations in viticulture down here in the hill country, getting us understanding better how to farm in our area will make some differences. I don't think it's going to put you guys out of business. I think it's going to change the way you guys dynamically do business. I've honestly been more fearful of you guys coming to fruition that you guys don't need us, quite honestly. I mean, that's been my biggest fear. That's been my biggest fear.
Audiences. There's so much room there for both areas. You talked about sense of place. There's so much room for everyone to identify wine. Period.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. Cliff, I had this conversation when I heard you guys were starting to label it's been several years ago now. When I heard you guys were starting to label, I turned to one of my friends in the hill country and I said, when these guys figure out that they don't need us, we're all in a really bad place. So we better start growing some grapes. So a lot of those vineyards that are in place here in the hill country, I mean, I had a little bit of something to do with. And so, I mean, I think that it's great. I think that the vibrance and intellectual growth in our viticulture, in our enology, it's a win-win. If you guys have a destination and we have a destination, that's more places for people to come to in Texas. So to answer your question long-windedly, Andy, I mean, I think that I think in the next 10 years, we're going to have 2 destinations, and I'd be very happy to see it. But I still want to get grapes from the High Plains because I like some of the stuff you guys.
Well, I was totally kidding when I said this, but I can say this because we have, we're in such a bad spot now. Is that we're only one outbreak of Pearson's disease away from being back in the catbird seat. So.
Now listen here, you and I had this conversation, and you know how I feel about your little joke.
I know.
It's like riding a motorcycle. It's not when you're going to get it, it's how bad it's going to hurt. I have a question, and I don't know that I got to excuse me, I got to read this question that came in. Since 2020 might end up with less volume, will you reduce the amount of estate high quality aging bottles to get the volume out of quick aging bottles? I'm not sure that I understand the question, but I think what they're saying is
Let me answer that, John.
Go ahead.
So 2019, most everybody got a larger crop. I am personally definitely planning and asking my wineries to use 19 for any factor, turnover, anything they want, they need to get on the shelf or get out. In 2020, if we have a crop, it's going in the barrel and it's going to be the reserve grape. Like, I mean, we were talking 2 tons an acre on red. That is not going in a sweet red wine. I'm not letting any of Bingham fruit going in a sweet wine. It's not rose. I mean, it's going in a barrel for like 3 years.
Yeah, that's like 2011.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like 2011. Everything should have gone into reserve programs because there was so little. Yeah.
Right. But 2019, I've got enough grapes. I could cover quite a bit of the hill country right now.
Us too.
Yeah.
So is there, I got a quick question. Is there anything out there, Cliff, you've been growing grapes a long time. I'm going to ask you this one. Is there one thing that you planted that you wish you didn't plant?
Just one.
And don't say grapes, period. Just
that's a hard one.
I know.
I think there's a fantastic future for Roussan. We've had a harder time selling it lately. We are going to start marketing it though. So this doesn't answer your question. It was a year ago, but it's not anymore. We're going to start marketing it as a cheaper grape, to not try to shoot for that high bricks anymore, because I can make really good Roussan at 22 to 23 bricks, and it's tasting fantastic in its own, but you don't think of it as the high brick.
It's not pineapple, not banana. It's going to be more of a sip as just white, crisp, but the lower, we can be consistent, but everybody wants the 24.
But I can grow it very, very consistently. It's a late bud breaker, shooting for higher tons and knocking the price down at least a third, if not more. And so so a year ago, I would have said Roussan, because we had planted some and we're starting to say, but we're going to go a different direction with that at this point. So to answer your question, I can't really think of one. Barring these crazy weather events, there's 30, 40 varieties that grow really good on the high plains. And we've got about 25 of those really good varieties.
Yeah. Well, I will say, as a winemaker, I love your direction you're going with Roussan, because my best Roussans and Viogniers have all been made between 22 and 23 brick, consistently holding the acid, maintaining where they need to be. You're still making 11 3/4 to 12% alcohol wine, which is perfect, which is like old world Hermitage wines. I think that's I got to tell you, that's one of the most innovative things I've heard in a long time, Cliff. I think that's a great idea. Andy, what about you, buddy? What would you?
Vermentino. What?
I would say Roussan would not be like one of the things that I'm glad that we didn't plant.
I
love Roussan. The two V's for me, I mean, Vermentino, not only can I not sell it, it won't make anything. And then the other one that I've just discussed it with lately is Viognier. If it didn't make such good wine when it made grapes, I wouldn't have Viognier. But it's, I think Picpoul Blanc and Roussan, Marsanne, let's go that way. Let's get away from the ups and downs of the VDA. But I've got it. I'm stuck with it. But it makes great wine when it produces. It's just that I have a lot of trouble with it. On my vineyard, I have trouble with it.
Yeah. Andy, that being said, you remember the conversation we had maybe a month ago. I do want that Vermentino. So whatever you have bubbling out of the vineyard, I know
That's
nobody
right.
else. You may hate it, but
No,
Johnny Ride would like to
I've
have
got
it.
4 acres of it. You can have all 3 tons that it makes.
I will take it. Hey, I will take it. I will gladly bring my truck up and drive it back to the hill country.
Okay, well we won't pull it out then. I'll leave it and we'll let you have it next year.
But you guys at Farmhouse, what are you guys? I know you guys have something that you guys regret planting, or wish you maybe didn't plant as much of.
You take that one there?
I think Senso is one that we planted a little heavy. I think it's one that has got a great future for Texas. That is not. It doesn't fall into your question, but it falls into your question from the standpoint of we planted it a little heavy. It's a higher yielder, but it's I think it's the future for that one. Senso is lights out. But a lot of people, are back. They hadn't grabbed it and done things with it that I think it could do. Tempranillo is one that everybody loves, and when it comes time to harvest, the last 30 minutes of Tempranillo, I dislike it very, very much. It's tough to harvest.
Yeah, it is. Tempranillo will give you fits at harvest time. That's for sure. It'll make the seasoned, grizzled veteran, grape harvesters look like idiots really, really quickly. But for me, the ones that I love growing it, I love harvesting it, I love drinking it. There's lots of things I love about it, but orange muscat is if you want to talk about profitability per acre for us, over the last, say, 10, 12 years, it's up there from the grape that, one of our top earning grapes. But we have to have a weekly question. Okay, who's buying orange muscat? And it's literally once a week. It's on our mind. Like, hey, how are we going to move the muscat? We've had to think out of the box. We've sold it to distillers, Stinson Distillery. They're making gin out of it. With some of our stuff, we've made some deals. That's a variety that's just
just take it, and by God, if you can sell it 4 years from now, then
Anthony got the worst grape to plant is the one that you can't sell.
Exactly. But
some I might not like growing, but I can sell them. Like Vineyard, I can sell every ton I've got, so it's in the ground.
Yeah.
That you just got to plant what you can sell.
Yeah.
It's got petite in front of it. It's gonna be low.
I've got. So I got to let you know, I've worked with Katy Jane and also January for a long time in this organization, and I can see January on her feed now, and she's got that "you need to stop talking" look on her face. I don't know if that's accurate or not. She just unmuted herself, so I have a feeling she's getting ready to tell me that we're about done. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, it's about 7:10. So if you guys feel like you want to wrap it up, that would be.
Is there no after party? Perhaps this is why I got let go and you got to stay. Is there no after party?
I'm not mean, but I do. I sit in the back of the room like this all the time. But this has been fantastic. I have loved sitting here listening to you guys, answer questions and talk about what's going on, but also just that banter back and forth and making moves in front of the whole world. I love it. It's awesome. You can definitely have an after party that will be live on one of your winery Facebook pages, right?
Farmhouse. After party.
It'll be live on Farmhouse's Facebook Live. Yeah.
No. We're super fun for about 5 minutes, and then the housewives had to go to bed. So let's go ahead and take that on over to the OGs at Bingham and Lostra.
That's fantastic. Well, I guess on that note, January, I would love to, on behalf of the Hill Country Wineries, thank all of our High Plains growers. friends and family for being here tonight. I can't begin to thank you guys enough for all the conversation and all the great grapes and mentorship and friendship and rooms to stay in when us winemakers come up there. So I mean, cheers to all you guys, and salute. Thank you so much. And tell you what, I'm gonna put here's to a fantastic 2020. Regardless of the hurdles in front of us, we will make a fantastic vintage of Texas grapes and Texas wine. So salute.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, you got it.
2024 quarter.
Thank
And
you.
I'll be posting the image of Andy Timons if anybody would like to see that in this thread.
Hey, nah.
Send it to me.
I'm gonna have to get a different backdrop next time.
No, this is solid.
Oh, I've got a good one. Sorry.
So do I.
I know I'm gonna call Katy Jane next time to style my backdrop. So she's your girl. I just want to thank John for moderating tonight. It was great to have that interaction, bringing the Hill Country and the High Plains together. As John noted, we all do work together very closely. And before being and what are y'all doing? Oh my goodness.
Change this backdrop. Move your head to the other way, John.
I knew about this label in a bar on 6th Street, or not 6th Street, 3rd Street, years ago.
Sorry, January.
So solid.
I got a screenshot of that though.
Contrary to popular belief, that's me. That was Andy in his 20s.
Oh, right? No doubt, right? This is Andy from Vineyard County. This is the strip on his way to.
Move your head the other way, John. I can't see it. There you go. There you go.
Don, just exit the screen.
Yeah.
We'll just leave y'all with that.
There you go.
Perfect.
I just want the whole world to know that this is our lives. This is what happens every day. We try to have serious conversations, and it always turns.
Well, that's why we all do this for no money.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, cheers to that. Cheers to you, JJ. Cheers to everyone on the front lines, everyone who takes the time to tune in, no matter where they're located in the great state of Texas. We so appreciate everyone. And we appreciate John Rivenburgh for the most because, sweet Jesus, look at that. I mean, end on that, right? Somebody close the screen.
So please, we will have another great panel. We have an amazing group of female winemakers to kick off Mother's Day weekend. So that is your reminder to shop now for your Mother's Day weekend, Mother's Day gifts. You can purchase online. All of our wineries have great shipping deals, wine deals right now, delivery deals. Please visit our Facebook page or our website, and there's a spreadsheet that you can use as a resource to figure out how to get the wines that you want to share with your mom next weekend. Again, same time next week, and we will see you here. Thank you all.
Bye, guys.